Law school life is challenging and stressful. Good thing you're not alone. Hi everyone, welcome back to this podcast, and I'm your host, Tina. I am the founder and content creator behind Totally Legal, and I'm here to help future lawyers like you and myself prepare for and navigate their law school journey ahead. Hi everyone, welcome back, my fellow future lawyers. We're here for another Law School Tips Philippines episode. Today we're going to talk about how you can improve your writing skills for law school. Now, I'm not sure if incoming law students are aware of this, but writing skills are as much important in law school as reading skills or public speaking skills. And I see two reasons for that. For one, law school examinations are mostly, if not all, in written format. Your preliminary exams are in written format, same as with your midterm and final examinations. And also, you will have to answer your law school exams in essay form. As such, we must write and answer cohesive and grammatically correct paragraphs. And just so you know, the Philippine bar examinations likewise require the examinees to answer the questions in essay form. This is one of the main reasons why we really must train ourselves to write and write better. Meanwhile, our legal practice in the near future, crossing fingers and claiming it as early as now, is another compelling reason why we should improve and practice our writing skills. A lawyer's legal work is not all hearings, court appearances, or direct or cross-examinations. It actually requires a great deal of writing too. In fact, as most of my law professors would say, a lawyer wins half of the battle if he's capable of composing a well-written pleading. So as aspiring and future lawyers, we should really work on improving our writing skills for law school the soonest time possible. With all these in mind, allow me to share with you some of the things that I did to improve my own writing. During my time as a first-year law student, I didn't have someone to help me prepare for law school, much less develop my writing skills. So I don't want that to happen to anyone. I don't want you to be as clueless as I was back then. So I thought I'd share in this episode some tips on how to improve your writing skills for law school. However, please know that I'm not a specialist on this matter. What I'm about to discuss with you today are strategies that worked for me. Although it did transform my writing for the better, I'd like you to recognize that they may not work for some of you or for everyone. So, just a little disclaimer there. But then, there's no harm in trying, right? That said, I suggest you grab a cup of coffee or tea to drink while listening. And since I'll be giving you around 10 tips, I think you may want to take out a pen and paper to take some notes with. Ready? Let's begin. So for my first tip, I would suggest that you read a lot. Don't you know that reading does a lot to improve your writing? For one, it immerses you in different writing styles. Next, reading demonstrates how the rules of grammar work without having to go through your English textbooks, which is often boring. Also, it enables you to familiarize yourself with various writing styles that you can adopt for law school or any occasion. Plus, you'll learn new words by reading more. And in law school, it pays to know a lot of words to use in legal writing, answering exams, and graded recitations. Finally, reading enhances your critical thinking skills, which you'll need both in writing and studying law. So for my second tip, I suggest you study, review, and master simple grammar rules. Grammar makes any written work clear and readable. So there's no way you'll confuse your readers as they go through your written work. Also, a grammatically correct writing speaks more of credibility and reliability on the part of its author. Let's face it, most people doubt the legitimacy of an article or blog if it's filled with grammar errors. Now, in relation to your law school prep or preparation, I'd say mastery of even simple grammar, such as basic rules on subject-verb agreement, allows you to communicate in law school with clarity. Consequently, you'll be able to do good in composing well-written answers to law school essay type exams or drafting pleadings for your legal writing classes or legal apprenticeship. Next, tip number 3, write in the active voice. The use of active voice in law school or in legal writing allows any law student to compose clear, concise, and moving sentences, which he'll need or you'll need in the following: answering law school exams, legal writing classes, and legal apprenticeship or CLEP as we now know it. Now, if you want to refresh your memory on this topic, consider reading my short discussion on active voice versus passive voice in my website, www.totallylegal.com. You can just search it there. I have a search bar on that website. So yeah. Now, before we continue on this topic, let's get things straight first. I'm not saying that writing in the passive voice is inappropriate or prohibited. In fact, there are certain situations that call for it. However, in my experience, my writing were always straight to the point and succinct whenever I write in the active voice. Also, I noticed that my written works were clearer because my readers can identify easily the doer of the action. And most of all, my writing had become more compelling after I embraced the active voice. The use of this voice in my sentences gave more emphasis on actions, which in turn gave my writing more life and power. So, in summary, the use of active voice kind of adds movement and conviction to any written work. So, if this is something you haven't done yet, consider trying this alongside the other strategies that I discussed earlier and that I will be sharing with you later in this episode. Tip number 4. Avoid using contractions. So if you're familiar with contractions, contractions are words made by shortening or combining two words. So for instance, instead of saying I cannot, you can just say I can't. Do not, don't. So those are examples of contractions. Now, there are actually two popular views on the use of contractions in formal writing. I say formal writing because everything that we write in law school may be considered formal writing. So the first view urges students to refrain from using contractions in formal writing. Meanwhile, the other view allows us to use contractions if we would use them just the same during oral communication. Now, considering these views alongside my years of experience as law student, writer, and public servant, I am more inclined to adopt the former view. That is, to avoid using contractions. However, let me just say this. I noticed that there are certain contractions that professors will allow in certain situations, and that is if the contractions you're using are meant to demonstrate possession. So what do I mean by this? For example, defenses, witnesses. So instead of saying the witnesses of the defense, you say defenses, witnesses. It conveys possession. The plaintiff's money or the plaintiff's bag. Something like that. And I know you totally get the point. So why is it that we shouldn't use contractions in legal writing or in law school, you may probably ask? Surprisingly, there's no special reason behind it. It's just that experienced writers consider them improper and have no place in formal writing. Using them in an informal writing is a different story though. With informal writing, which one often use in making blogs, like what I do in my website, or social media posts or Instagram captions, contractions are commonly acceptable. As early as now, you must practice dropping too much use of contractions, especially if you're composing essays for law school, because they really are a no-no. Now, tip number 5, write simply. When it comes to improving writing skills for law school, simplicity is the way to achieve the ultimate goal, and that is clarity. Simplicity in law school writing does not mean you should abandon the use of legalese words or legal jargons when needed. In some occasions, using them is really inevitable. Writing simply doesn't mean that you will write poorly or that you will give your professor what they call lazy writing. It just means that when you write simply, you go straight to the point and you make sure that everything is concise and clear. Another tip would be to expand your vocabulary. Now, having a rich word bank is one of the ways of improving writing for law school. For one, you'll have more words to use for explanations or descriptions. Next, if you have strong vocabulary or if you know a lot of words, it is unlikely that you will repeat certain words more than twice in a paragraph, which, in my opinion, makes your written work better. And finally, having rich vocabulary not only improves your writing, it likewise enhances your reading comprehension, which you'll need to, of course, review your lessons or study for law school, to make case digests, or write law school essays, or even in answering your law school exams. Next tip, use online grammar or writing tools. Now, we all know the internet is a massive source of free writing-related downloadable tools, apps, or software. And all you have to do is search them through Google or other search engines. And the good news is most of them are free. So, I have my fair share of favorites, which I still use up to this date. And some of them would be Grammarly, of course, the most popular. I also use Hemingway Editor, which I recently discovered. And also, I use online word processors. And I just, typed or searched for them through Google. And Google gave me a lot of options to choose from. And most of them are free. So you can do just that if you want to use online word processors in, writing case digests or composing your law school exams or answering practice questions. Another free app would be Google Docs, Evernote, and I think you're familiar with this, Notion. Tip number 8, have someone review your work. That someone need not be your professor, okay? It could be your close friend, your parents, or siblings. The goal here is to have second, third, fourth, and so on look on your work so you can just tag along anyone. Actually, you can have your work reviewed using the online tools that I mentioned earlier. However, it pays to have someone giving you more subjective feedback because having a person review your work can give you insights on the tone, voice, and clarity of your written work, which those online tools or apps may not be able to give you. Like, that person can tell you if your writing is too legalese, too informal, or masyadong salitang kanto, too colloquial. And the beauty of this type of review is it humanizes your work. So you're allowing your work to be understood in the context of another person's comprehension and consciousness. Tip number 9, always write for an audience. You know who pushes me until now to continue stepping up my writing? It's you guys. And it's no joke. You see, when you know that other people will read your written work, you will be constrained to give it your best shot. And in my opinion, it's a good thing because it motivates you to write even better. As you prepare for law school and hone your writing skills, I suggest you look for platforms that will enable you to reach out to certain types of audience through writing. If you have the time, try blogging. You may also submit your work to online publications or write letters to the editor for your local newspaper. Now, if blogging or writing for publications is not your thing, you may get started by writing clear and grammatically correct social media posts or captions. These are not as time-consuming as blogging or writing for newspapers. However, these strategies will likewise urge you to write better posts for your social media handles or your Facebook friends or Instagram followers. And for my final tip, I suggest that you practice. Actually, I don't just suggest it. I highly encourage you to do so. Because constant practice transforms an amateur to a professional. And honestly, I believe this is the only thing that sets us apart from the good and prolific writer and law student that I've always wanted to become. So you got to exercise those neurons and fingers of yours and start practicing, start writing now. And believe me, you'll be surprised of your improvement along the way. So there you have it. 10 writing tips for you right there to get you started today. Like I said earlier, these tips may not work for everyone. Nonetheless, I'm still sharing them with you because these helped me, for real, transform myself to one who can now write better for law school and currently earns from writing jobs. So thank you so much for listening. If you find this episode useful, please consider sharing this with your friends, fellow aspiring lawyers, or anyone who wants to improve their writing. And for more law school tips, hacks, and resources, just log on to www.totallylegal.com. That's spelled out as TOTETALLY. And you may also find me on social media. I'm mostly active on Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, and Pinterest. So there, have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon.